It's been talked to death how successful the Wizarding World was. It has completely changed how people perceive the Universal Orlando Resort, Universal destinations as a whole, and also the theme park industry as a whole. And so what else is there really to add to this conversation? I think I have one thing. So for starters, I'm trying something a bit different with this video. I don't have anything scripted or really outlined for it. I just kind of want to go through my experiences and, kind of talk about my thoughts as they come to me. So contrary to what you might think about me, I have no affinity for the Harry Potter franchise. I never read the books growing up, never watched the movies, just wasn't a part of me. To this day, never read them, never watched them, and don't really have a desire to. And so, when I was first planning a visit to Orlando to visit Universal, I was excited about, the Wizarding World, and I'd heard all these great things about it, and I knew how much it impacted the theme park industry. But at the end of the day, was I really gonna go head over heels for a land that was based off something that I didn't really care about? So for starters, I did this whole thing backwards. I started at Diagon Alley. So starting the rope drop march over to the London area of the park, I was pleasantly surprised at how not in your face the Harry Potter was on the outside of Diagon Alley. It really did transition well from San Francisco. I distinctly remember the facades really capturing my eye. It may be because I collect vinyl records and they have one that's a record shop. But as a whole, I just really like the energy that London area creates right outside of Diagon Alley. And it captured my attention a lot more than I was expecting it to on my first time. But nothing would have prepared me for going into Diagon Alley. Walking through that crumbled brick wall, going around and just getting that reveal. To this day, I think it's the best reveal of any land to ever exist. It just sets the stage and then delivers. The dragon, the way the streets just line it perfectly, your eye knows exactly where to go, but at the same time it's overwhelmed. There's just so much happening that it almost feels enticing. What that reveal showed me was immediately I got this sense of noticing how much energy and love there was for this land around me from guests who had a lot more affinity for Harry Potter. And so I started to get this weird fear of missing out of shouldn't I also be having this exact same reaction? But then at the same time, I was having my own reaction to just how amazing and how detailed everything was, and how I felt like I wasn't in a theme park anymore. It truly felt like I was in somewhere other than Universal. But being more rides people, we went right back to Gringotts, got into line, and oh my god, the reveal inside of Gringotts.
Wow.
I don't know what movie it's from. I don't know exactly what it's supposed to be. But there's this feeling to it that you can't describe, even if you have no concept of what it is. That there's this scale that doesn't happen at theme parks, especially in America. And immediately my eye just did not know where to look, because everything in that bank, every detail was there. And you felt it. And you felt this reveal, and you felt this energy from all the guests around you. And it's intoxicating. The fact that there are all these animatronics of these bank tellers, the chandelier is just, if I could have that in my apartment, I would. It wouldn't fit, but I want it. But it's just this overwhelming sense of, I don't know why I love this, but I do. And that feeling started to just take me in. And I started to look at the rest of my visit into the Wizarding Worlds with that lens of, I don't know why I love this, but I know I should, and I'm going to try to figure it out. So once we left the first room and continued down into the queue, I kind of expected that to be my wow moment for the entire ride. I didn't expect something to pass that bar, and to be fair, it's a very high bar to pass. That first room was just incredible. And that stayed true until the second pre-show. Everything about it is just incredible. The way it sells, it doesn't need to be there, but it sells every aspect of its immersion perfectly. It feels like a part of the ride. In the same way that Rise would do that with the transport, this did it earlier and felt even more ingrained into that ride. And it sells the illusion even better, I think. And so at this point, I was going in expecting to ride Gringotts as a roller coaster. I knew enough about Gringotts in terms of the ride type and what it did and what it was. Enthusiast, I know that stuff. It's all been spoiled for me at this point. On the other hand, I went in expecting to ride it like a ride, not a story, because I don't know Harry Potter, I don't know the backstory, I don't know the context. But the story that they tell through those 2 pre-shows is perfect. And I don't know how many people have no context of Harry Potter going into it, but they took us into account. Because it perfectly felt like I knew just enough and I could infer just enough and place myself into the story that I didn't feel like I was losing too much detail while still being able to appreciate what the story of the ride was going to be and not just the ride itself. And so now with a newfound level of optimism for my entire experience at the Wizarding Worlds, I put on those 3D glasses and got to the vehicle and was ready to go. Riding on Gringotts was interesting too, because I think if the story hadn't been set up in the way it did, I would be disappointed by it. Because those coaster sections, let's be honest here, they're pretty not substantial. They don't take up a lot of the ride. They don't really do much as far as like coaster goes. And like the actual coaster part of it is almost minimal to what is being told as a story on screens. And so you really, to appreciate Gringotts, need to care about the story. And somehow I did. And I really enjoyed it. And so getting off Gringotts with this newfound mantra of, I may really like the Wizarding World, I was beyond excited to stop and get a butterbeer. Because now I was like, I'm going to be a part of this world. And butterbeer may be the greatest theme park food ever created. They hit the nail on the head. So past butterbeer, I started to take in the rest of the land. And what I realized was this is truly what the definition of an immersive theme park land is. And that word gets thrown around a lot, especially as of late. But this is the one that actually felt warranted. Just seeing the details in these facades, the shops, and seeing people interact with wands, with different props that didn't need to be there. And yet they were. And it was building this world that around you that keeps you forgetting that you're in a theme park. And that's what a lot of other quote-unquote immersive theme park lands have missed, is that aspect of like truly every single asset of this land serves a purpose in a narrative, and that narrative may not be linear. It's all about world building, even if there's not prior knowledge. And like, as much as I love Galaxy's Edge, if you don't kind of have an understanding or at least a base fundamental, knowledge of the Star Wars universe, I don't think it translates as well as Diagon Alley does without, fundamental knowledge of Harry Potter. Like, think about getting on Gringotts versus getting on Rise of the Resistance. There's a way to get on Rise of the Resistance without really walking through much of the land, whereas Gringotts forces you to start by being immersed in the land itself and draws you to the center under the dragon for Gringotts. It uses that time so specifically to build up an ambience, to build up a base understanding of kind of where you are in this world. But anyways, I'm gonna move on and we can kind of circle back to some of the stuff that's more overarching between both sections of the Wizarding World. But yeah, so I kind of, left day one, left Universal Studios Florida, really excited about visiting Hogsmeade the next day, which was not what I went into the day thinking, not the expectation. So I woke up bright and early the next day, ready to go to Hogsmeade, which if you told me that Hogsmeade, of all things, was going to be like number one or number two most anticipated things to ride that day, my first ever day on adventure, I would have been stunned. But everything from the day before, build up those expectations, and I was ready. I was excited for it. So we get there. We end up rope dropping Velocicoaster. Love Velocicoaster. Still do. But then we went over to Harry Potter. And as much as it's not the same level of reveal as Diagon Alley, I still think walking from Jurassic Park over that bridge into Hogsmeade is up there as some of the best land reveals. Still. The reveal of Hogwarts, even as someone who does not care, it is this impressive structure that just towers over and feels just impossibly big. And it sets the stage that you're just, wow, this is truly like another one of these themed lands. Like, I immediately saw that when my expectations are back up to where they were yesterday. I don't think this is going to disappoint me. And so we start by heading over to Hogwarts and hopping on Forbidden Journey. While for me, the Forbidden Journey queue didn't really have a signature wow moment to the same extent as, Gringotts does, it still has a lot of good ones. I was enjoying it. I was really getting hyped up for this ride. And my friends were hyping me up on this ride too. They're saying it's super immersive, one of the best dark rides ever created. And I love a good dark ride. So I was excited. We get on Forbidden Journey, start levitating, and I'm like, wow, this is super cool. Love this ride system. It's super unique. Can't wait to see what they do with it. And then we get into that first screen. And I notice a little bit when we first push into those parabolic screens that go around. I noticed when my ride vehicle first matched up with it, I felt a little something in my stomach. And I went, oh no. But as I was watching the things on the screen, I wasn't really having an issue. And I was like, okay, maybe we'll be fine. And then we start leaving the screen. And it does it again, worse this time. And I'm like, oh no, this land is older and it's going to disappoint me. Because I have never gotten more motion sick on a ride in my life than those transitions in and out of the screens on Forbidden Journey. I left it, thinking maybe Diagon Alley was the, perfected version of this idea, of this concept, of this property. And so I was like, you know what? I started coming to grips with that. I came to terms. We skipped Flight of the Hippogriff because I don't need to ride another Vekoma kiddie coaster on my first day of Islands of Adventure without Express. It's fine. I kind of know what to expect. I know there's an animatronic, that's cool, but at the same time, am I really going to spend my time doing that when I could sit outside, bake in the sun, and waiting in an 85-minute Hagrid's line? That's what we did. And I knew going in the hype for Hagrid's. And so I knew, I was like, this is going to be a pain to wait for, but I'm probably going to like the payoff of it at least. This is best case scenario for this land. And so in line for Hagrid's, I'm starting to just take in the details. And what I kind of liked about Hagrid's early on, and I noticed it, was it doesn't necessarily tell a story. It more so sets a scene. It's all just environments. Everything feels real. Everything feels lived in. Everything feels authentic. And there's texture and there's energy to it that you can't describe with a lot of cues with static props. And so I'm noticing all these things and I'm just, in awe of the design. And once you get inside, you start to notice the story is starting to build. So you get, the voiceovers that come overhead, voice of gods, talking about the lesson. And I'm like, okay, so I'm being taught something. Easy to piece together. That makes sense. And as you go through, you see all these creatures and you figure it out and you're kind of piecing that together. You have that kind of room with all the eggs in it that has this almost reveal to it that I liked. It was just kind of a different look than the rest of the queue, which I appreciate. It changes it up, especially if you're waiting over an hour for something. And then you go into the caves and you lose your mind in there. But I almost think they kind of intended to, because you feel different. You feel like you're taken somewhere else. You feel like, maybe you're not supposed to be here. Maybe this is all underground a little bit. Maybe these lessons aren't great. And it sets that kind of undertone of, yeah, Hagrid is a good guy and you're supposed to like him. But at the same time, he's doing something he probably shouldn't be with these people who are just young. And I like that there's that little edge and that little uncomfort of you're losing your mind. I don't know. I may have just been really, really, really motion sick and really, really delirious and just losing my mind in those caves. But at this point, it's my headcanon, so we kind of take it. Once you get to the station, you realize what that queue is set up to do, and it's to build this anticipation, but also this tension. And when you get to the station, sit in that motorbike, there's this release. And I think that's all intentional. And it does such a good job of it. You get in, that first little bit of the music kicks in, and you hear those triumphant trumpets go. And you're ready. You're mentally prepared. You're in this universe, even if you don't know it. And once you're off, the ride just kicks. It's incredible. It's as much as, you can have these story coasters, Hagrid's is the story coaster. It does just this perfect balance of it's telling a story, it knows when to take breathers, it paces itself, but at the same time it throws all these curveballs at you while telling the story. That's so simplistic. But that's perfect for a coaster because you don't have time to tell this elaborate story. Like even Guardians with the Omni Coaster system, it still doesn't have long to tell you stories. And so that does a really good job in its own way of doing that using the Omni Coaster. But Hagrid's was able to do that without, being able to direct your vehicle to show scenes for longer. It does it by just knowing how to pace a coaster and separate it out into a way that feels natural. And the thing with Hagrid's too that just blew me away was the ambition of the ride itself. Being a coaster person, to see a ride that was throwing that many launches at you with those themed vehicles, with all these different elements, with a switch track, drop tracks, continuous load moving stations, like all this stuff. It threw everything that Intimate had in 2019 at it. And it works in this symphony. And it sometimes doesn't work. But you know what? I'll take that for the times it does work. And so getting off Hagrid's, I, had a renewed faith in, Hogsmeade. And I remember, walking that exit path, and getting myself in a headspace of, okay, I'm going to take this land in like I did yesterday now. And it really completely changed my opinion of it. I was looking around, I was seeing the same details. It's a little more open while also feeling a little bit more, condensed versus Diagon Alley, which I found interesting. And I think it's interesting the way that I did it going to Diagon first and then Hogsmeade. It felt strangely calming compared to Diagon Alley. Diagon Alley has this kind of chaotic energy, especially with Nocturne Alley. It has this almost like chaotic, fast-paced environment to it. Whereas Hogsmeade felt a little bit more, we're taking it easy here. The Hogwarts Express just pulled up. You're going to go on your way to Hogwarts. But let's just take some time to, just stroll through the streets. Snow's falling. It's winter, all that. And it does it very well. And I've once again found myself being lost, forgetting that I'm in a pretty small land in a theme park. And in a theme park that had already given me my favorite coaster ever that morning. And it's just so interesting how it's able to do that. I don't care about Harry Potter. I swear I don't care about Harry Potter. I don't care about it. And here I was, wanting to spend most of my day in Harry Potter and just experiencing everything. I felt like I was weird for not knowing Harry Potter. I felt like I was missing out. And that's the only time in my life I've ever felt that, is in these lands. And so I guess that's kind of a good transition point to just talk about the lands as a whole between both of them and what they do so well that other immersive lands have kind of not done to the same extent. And I think it's just this unbridled commitment to immersion. Every single bit of world building that could be done in both Wizarding Worlds is done. There's not a square inch that is not used for something that's telling a story or adding to the world. Whereas you have in other immersive lands like Pandora or Galaxy's Edge, you have a couple spots where there's stuff where, maybe there could be more. Maybe there could be something that was moving or giving you an energy or telling a story a little bit more. And while I do think theme park lands should have breathers, it doesn't mean those breathers shouldn't have an impact on the world. Another thing is just the architecture of these lands. They don't feel like theme parks. in any sense of the imagination. Everything feels real. It's like when you think of like a sitcom set. There are some sitcoms where their entire set feels real, lived in, believable throughout. And then there's some where you're like, that is not a real place that people live. No one sleeps there. That's not it. That's not real. I think the same can be said on theme park lands. There are some theme park lands that, oh my God, yeah, this is so real. I could see myself living here. Like someone lives here. This is actually places where people, in their day-to-day shop. This is where this happens. Going back to like Hollywood Studios comparisons, think about it like when I'm on Sunset Boulevard, I don't have to suspend my disbelief at all that I'm in, that era of Hollywood until I hit Rock and Roller Coaster, and that's like, am I really? But like Sunset Boulevard itself feels so natural that I've never had to once cognitively put myself into the timeline. Whereas something like Toy Story Land, as cute as it is, I have to suspend my disbelief a little bit, which can work for that land. It's definitely targeted towards kids much more than adults. But there's still that disconnect. I mean, I haven't even touched on the Hogwarts Express, which is this perfect, truly immersive way to go between these two lands with a story that, again, makes sense. You can place yourself in. It doesn't beat you over the head with lore and details and stuff that you need to know. It's there, but you don't need to know it. It's just this seamless way to go between these two separate lands that feel like different places in time without breaking any immersion. I think Universal has proven that when they put their full ambition and full intent of creating something completely out of this world and completely immersive, they can do it. And both Wizarding Worlds have shown that fully. And that's why I think there's so much hype around Universal destinations as a whole right now. That's why Epic Universe is not just being looked at as, oh, it's a third park, it's going to have its different rides, but it's just another park. There's a reason that Epic Universe has this buzz around it that is unlike anything we've seen in decades. People are fully expecting Epic Universe to be like the Wizarding World, where every detail and everything tells the story and sets the world. And I think they're going to succeed with it. And that's beyond exciting. I went into the Wizarding World not thinking I was going to care about it, and I'd be, back over riding Mummy 4 times over. I thought I was going to lap Velocicoaster 40 times that day. Did I still lap it a couple of times? Of course. But I still cared more about Harry Potter than I ever thought I would. I was someone who completely was just not caring about Harry Potter. I didn't get it. And I still don't get it to a large degree. But these worlds have made me feel like I'm missing out. And at the same time, I almost don't want to go back and know the story and understand the foundational knowledge. Because now I got to a point where I've appreciated these lands for what I've created from their storytelling in my own mind. And I think that's the most successful thing you can say about a theme park land, is it has made me so enthralled and immersed in the storytelling that I want to be a part of it, even if I don't care where they started at. And so, yeah, that's kind of my unique little perspective and story about understanding and experiencing the Wizarding World as someone who, to this day, doesn't care, shouldn't care, and why I'm still so impressed. And I think they're some of my favorite lands at any theme park. And I can't believe I'm saying that. And so, yeah, that's my thoughts. Honestly, I should have just had my hair like this for the whole video, for being real. Yeah, the only other connection I've ever had to Harry Potter as a whole is a good amount of times, usually at least 2-3 times a year, I get called Harry Potter by someone I just don't know, by some stranger. It happens a lot. It's kind of, I got used to it. These aren't my usual glasses. I literally bought these because I thought it'd be funny. And at some point I do want to walk through the park with them on, just to see, just for the vibe. But yeah, I don't know how this video is going to turn out without a script. It feels weird for me, but let me know if you didn't like it that way. Let me know, and I think I'm gonna script more of them, but I like the option. Yep. feels more conversational, more back and forth. But yeah, thank you for watching this. Thank you all for watching these videos. A lot more of you have been. I thought I had a lot more time to get B-roll, for being honest here. I thought I had time to, figure out my style, figure out my B-roll, build a nest egg, and then maybe some videos people would find and enjoy. There'd be a little bit of an audience, but they're a lot more of you than I thought. So I'm really appreciative. It means a lot. Like it's fun that other people are like, interested in these nerdy theme park topics and super weird deep dives into ride photos and Vagrant and Diagon. So yeah, I really appreciate the genuinely all the support you guys have given me. So yeah, if you want to see more, I'm hoping to get the next one out soon-ish. I have the B-roll shot for it, thankfully, which should save me a lot of time because getting this B-roll took a while. I don't want to be in the sun. It's too hot here right now. But yeah, so hopefully that should be out soonish. Trying to do it every 2-ish weeks, get a video out, but I know I haven't been sticking to that too well. But yeah, let me know any videos you want to see, any topics you might want covered. I'll get working on the next one, and in the meantime, like, subscribe, comment. See ya.